Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the video. This is my game, Bug Ball. It's basically FIFA with little bugs, and the whole idea is that all of the bugs have got different stats, different abilities, and you can use them when you're playing in a match. Now, before I start the video, I am going to acknowledge there's been about a year since I last uploaded. Do I have a year's worth of progress? That is for you to decide. So for anyone new, or for anyone who's forgotten, let me just remind you where we were at in the last devlog. Basically, I'd got the fundamentals of playing Bug Ball in a match into the game. Passing, shooting, tackling, all of that stuff. There's 18 different characters, 18 different bugs. They've all got abilities. There's a pretty decent AI to play against. And the visuals for the pitch, they look okay. They look not too bad. So the game was basically at this point where it was very similar to like Rocket League, FIFA, the new football game that came out, Rematch, where you play a game of football and that's the gameplay. But the thing is that these games, they all have something that my game is never going to have, which is online multiplayer, because I'm just one person. I don't have the time, I don't have the resources. And when it comes to games that are kind of like match based, you really need something to keep people playing, and normally that is online. However, because I'm not doing that, I need a replacement, and what I've decided to do is story mode. Yeah, Bug Ball is an RPG, and this isn't something I've just decided. This was literally from the day one, this was what I wanted Bug Ball to be. It's just I needed to get the match feeling and playing good before I could then go and create the full game to go with that. The analogy that I've been using is what I've made so far is the battling system in Pokemon, and now I'm going to start making the rest of Pokemon. How hard can that be, right? The whole idea behind Bug Ball's story is you're a little bug and you've just joined your first ever Bug Ball club, and now you've got to take this club and take it all the way to the top. So they're the best club around. So you're going to go to different areas, you're going to recruit different people to your club, going to make friends, maybe make some enemies along the way. There'll be little challenges and training exercises you can take part in to make your bugs better at the game. And in general, it's just going to be a wholesome story about one little bug, or maybe 4 little bugs if you're playing it local multiplayer, trying to get to the top and become the best bugs of Bug Ball to have ever existed. So it sounds pretty cool, right? The idea of like running around, forming your club, all that sort of stuff. There's just one problem that I have. There are kind of 2 ways to make games. You can make a game quick and dirty, or you can take your time and then the game is very easy to build on top of. And I did the first option, and I didn't regret making the game very quick and dirty, because realistically, I needed to test if Bug Ball was going to be fun. And the easiest way to test if a game is going to be fun is to just make it as fast as possible. The only downside is, now that I have realized, hey, people seem to be enjoying the game and enjoying playing it, I need to build on top of that. And that's where I've been for the last year, trying to make it so I can actually build on top of what I have. Quick example of why this was actually the best way to do it, and programming quick and dirty was actually quite good. In the last devlog, I mentioned the idea of adding in a giant frog, and I thought this was a sick idea, a giant frog boss that comes into the middle of the match and both teams have to try and defeat it together. The only problem was, it wasn't fun. It sucked. It was really boring. Everybody hated it. Everybody complained at me that it was in the game. So guess what? I removed it, but I don't feel too bad because I didn't spend ages on it. If I'd spent ages making sure the code was really clean, really scalable, then I'd be pretty set on keeping it in the game, even though it sucked. Quick and dirty code, it's not always bad. It can be bad, but I think in this case it wasn't. Although I'd be lying if I said it wasn't a pain to go in and clean it all up. The biggest problem I had taking the game from only being playable within the context of a match to being playable in a story mode was everything was dependent on the fact that it was a match. And if you weren't in a match, like 90% of things broke. If you go to shoot and there's no goals and the auto aim on the shooting doesn't work. If you go to pass and there's no one to pass to, the passing doesn't work. And this just goes on and on and on. The matches are only designed to have one ball. What if there's multiple balls in the story mode? And of course, one of the most annoying things that I didn't consider from the very beginning of making Bug Ball is that there might be slopes in the story mode. And I've been using Unity's rigid body system, which it's not amazing for slopes. Let me just say, you just kind of slide down them, which isn't really what I wanted. So what I decided to do was, instead of using Unity's rigid bodies, I was going to use Unity's character controller. The only problem with that is that almost all of the movement code was set up to work with Unity's rigid bodies, and now I had to convert it to now work with Unity's character controller. And everything is movement. The tackling is a movement, like when you tackle and when you get tackled. That's movement. Obviously, running around is movement. When you get hit by an ability, that's movement. Everything is movement. It was very annoying, but I got there in the end. I think most of the values are about the same. Some things might be a little weaker, some things might be a little stronger, but in general, I would say it's about the same. And to summarize, I basically spent absolutely ages to make it so that a character can walk up a slope. And other than that, there is no noticeable change to any of the movement in the game. Now that I'd got this little story scene set up and I got the movement working properly, I thought it'd be fun to kind of add some little RPG elements. So you've got breakable barrels that drop coins that you can collect, and you can destroy the barrels by either kicking the ball at them, tackling them, or using a bug's ability to destroy them. On top of that, there's now little houses. At the moment, I have a single apple model, which I'm using as the house. And when you enter the doorway, look at that, you're now inside the house. Originally, I was planning on making each of the interiors for the houses a separate level in Unity, but then I realized I can just hide the interior of the house somewhere else on the map and just teleport the player over there. I might add a little transition in the future, just so it's not too disorienting if you sprint into a house. On top of that, what would an RPG be without NPCs to talk to? So I spent ages learning how to make a dialogue system. So I've now got this nice node editor that I can use to create dialogue for different characters. It's very cool, and I can even trigger events, like giving the player money, and even trigger games. So you can go up, talk to someone, and then challenge them to a bug ball game. And even though I'm only talking about a dialogue for about 30 seconds of this entire video, it took ages. It took so long. So if you want to see how it works for yourself, feel free to check out the demo. It's down below in the description. Give it a play. It's very basic for now. There's basically like one objective, but it's a start and the mechanics are in there, which means from now on, it's going to be really easy to build on top of it. And that's the main thing. It's not necessarily about quantity. It's about having the mechanics so that I can do more with it in the future. Now, I've been planning to make this video for like a month or two, and I was thinking about it and I was like, yeah, I want to talk about all of the stuff that I've added to do with the new story mode. Then I was like, let me go back and look at the last Bug Ball devlog that I made and just see if there are any other like small changes or whatever that I could potentially talk about. And after watching that video, I realized that I was planning to make about 4 other videos in between that last video and this one. But instead of making them, I finished about 80% of the content I was going to put into that video and then just didn't make the video and moved on to something else. And here we are. So now I'm going to talk about the 3 other devlogs that I would have made. And the first one of those is UI. Now, if you take a look at the UI in the last Bug Ball devlog, it looks pretty terrible. And I also noticed this community post on Steam basically saying the game doesn't work. And I think at the time the game worked. However, there is nowhere saying that the game is only playable on controller at the moment. So if the guy decided he was going to play some Bug Ball, not knowing what it was for the first time, and decided to use a mouse and keyboard, he just physically wouldn't be able to play the game. Like, nothing would happen. It wouldn't register any mouse and keyboard input whatsoever. So now, look at this. Handy dandy little disclaimer saying, hey, you can only play the game on controller. On top of that, I thought it'd be nice to actually make a decent impression when you first open the game. So now we've got a cool menu. Look at this. It's pretty heavily inspired by the Persona menus. I thought it'd be really cool to have this menu that exists in physical space, and as you scroll through the menu options, kind of moves the camera around and you can see different things basically. Obviously, I know people aren't going to spend ages in the menu just scrolling through options, not doing anything other than scrolling through options, but I really want to make a good first impression with the game, and it's just fun to make things look good. Like, it doesn't make sense to not put effort into every single part of the game, you know? The next piece of UI is when you click on the versus button, the camera will now like zoom through to this tree stump. All of the UI will appear. Oh, look at that nice animation. And then all of the bugs will run out of the tree stump and you can pick who you want to be on your team. I think this looks like actually pretty decent. Like, everything's kind of animated. Press up on the D-pad, you can actually see all of the stats and the abilities of the bugs that you're choosing. You can even switch teams. The only thing is, the reason I didn't make a devlog talking about all of the UI changes is I wanted to make another UI screen where you can actually position the bugs that you've chosen on the pitch. So you can choose whether they're going to be a striker, defender, in goal, that sort of thing. But I couldn't figure out what I wanted it to look like, basically. I just wasn't sure. And I've got so much else that I can add to the game, I don't really need to force it. So it's definitely something I'm going to come back to in the future. When? I'm not 100% sure. It's not 100% necessary because I've got little indicators showing which role each of the bugs are going to be in. But it is something I need to do. And, you know, when inspiration strikes, which, I mean, hopefully it will, then I'll do it. But yeah, it never made it into a full video. And I was going to talk more about the design and all this sort of stuff. But hey, you get to gloss over it in like a minute. On to devlog number 2, which was actually going to be about giving the AI that you play against in a match abilities. And my whole premise for this one, for this devlog, was that the AI at the time wasn't very good. Everybody could beat the AI. Normally, they would beat it like 10-0, sometimes 20-0, and that wasn't amazing. So my idea was, I'm going to make an AI that nobody can beat, because I thought the reason people were able to beat it was the AI couldn't use the abilities yet. I knew there was some jank to the AI, and it wasn't amazing. However, However, I was pretty confident if I teach the AI how to use the bug's abilities, it's going to be unstoppable. So that's what I did. I went through each of the bugs individually and then programmed cases where they would try to use their abilities. For example, if they're about to be tackled, if they're about to tackle, if they're chasing someone down, stuff like that. And all the bugs could use abilities. The only thing was, the AI was still not very good. It was better, marginally better. However, it was still not as good as actual people. And I kind of felt like I'd failed because that was my whole goal. I wanted the AI to be this unbeatable force, or at least like a lot better, to the point where it would beat most people, because then I can just kind of dial it back and make it easier for the game. But it wasn't. It was still kind of sucked. And because of that, I never made a devlog about it, which honestly, looking back at it, it might not have been the most interesting devlog anyway. But again, this is something I want to come back to. I do want to make the AI better. There's no need for it to be better now, but in the future, I definitely want to make it more challenging. I want you to actually be scared of the AI. That's the goal. And what was the last thing that I added that I was going to talk about? That's right, you hear it. It's music and audio. And this one, I was really excited to make a video about, and probably still will make a full-length video about it, because I think music is really cool. I'm working with a composer, my good friend Ryan, who has been putting together some audio for Bug Ball. And the cool thing about the audio that I was able to put into the game is it's all live recorded. I have a video of the musicians performing the piece, and it's crazy. On top of that, the music is dynamic too. I recently picked up Fmod, which is this software kind of used to integrate music into games. And one of the many really cool things that you can do with this software is you can trigger the music to skip forwards or skip backwards, skip to certain points. So now when things happen mid-game, the music will jump to a different part in the song to better match what is happening during the gameplay, which is just sick. So for example, when it starts raining, a literal solo starts happening in the middle of the piece. How crazy is that? This is something that I've really wanted to add for like the longest time. Ever since I saw a video on the making of Cuphead where they recorded a whole live orchestra, I was like, if I make a game, that's going in it 100%. I want some live music. And yeah, live music. There are a couple MIDI instruments added on top just to kind of fill out the sound a little bit, but for the most part, pretty much all the music in Bug Ball at the moment is live, which very cool. Thank you for Ryan for doing that one. He did an amazing job. So we've got two pieces in the game at the moment. There's a menu music and there's a music that plays during the matches. And the reason I didn't make a devlog talking about music is basically I wanted to add in sound effects too, and I just got lazy basically. I haven't really added in sound effects. I've added in a couple sound effects, but there's a lot more that need to be added in. And on top of that, a lot of the sound effects I have added, they're very temporary. They do the job for now, but I want everything to be a bit more spicy, a bit crunchier, you know? Now, I know there are a bunch of things that you're probably thinking, hey, you should add this to the game. Or, hey, you said you would add this to the game. Where is it? If I haven't mentioned it, I probably haven't got around to it. It doesn't mean I will never get around to it. I've got a huge long backlog list of things I want to add to the game. And I know in my last devlog, I said I wanted to start updating the characters. I wanted to remodel them all, rig them, and add in some new animations. Honestly, it's kind of fallen down a little bit on my priority list. I'm not sure how much finished stuff I want to add into Bug Ball right now. I would prefer to make more of the game and then come back and polish it later, rather than make stuff that I might not be happy with now and might get deleted in the future. However, that being said, I have started doing some more finalized designs. I've been streaming doing the design process on Twitch, so if you want to see that in person, go check it out. Alright, there you have it. That's what Bug Ball's looking like at the moment. There are a couple other things that I haven't mentioned that I kind of glossed over. So there's a new dynamic event in the game, actually. Randomly now during the game, the ref can just go crazy and just start tackling people. Because the ref's a B as well, it means that you have the chance that you're going to get stunned too. And I think it adds a lot of chaos to the game. I like it a lot. On top of that, there's a cool little cinematic intro that plays at the start of a game. It's all synced to the music as well, which very nice, very nice. And if you skip through the intro, it actually skips through the intro of the song to the kind of start of where the match music begins. But yeah, there you have it. A year's worth of development. I have been doing other stuff sort of slotted in between there, which I do plan to talk about in other videos. But what did you think? Was it a lot? Was it a bit disappointing? Let me know. Thank you for watching, and hopefully I will see you in the next one.